All right. Yeah. Welcome to the show. It's Ringside Report. I'm Dave. Fred's here. AJ's here.
Tweet, tweet.
They're retweeting links as we speak. We are here. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ringsidereport.net. If you're watching us, you can watch us live every Thursday at 8 p.m. If you're listening to us Friday nights on TSN 690, check us out online at ringsidereport.net, the online home for everything Ringside Report, everything Wrestling Uncensored, all the pro wrestling, all the MMA talk that you can handle. We did an AEW all-out watch-along on Saturday night that a lot of you watched, and I appreciate that. And it was a first time ever. Myself, Johnny North, and the Green Phantom. What a three-man crew that was,
It was
right?
pretty awesome. I
That's
missed out.
a hell of a team.
I missed out, but I really wanted to be there. But when I saw it live, I'm like, man, I wish I would have made my way there. I wanted to be like the little Green Phantom. If I come next time,
Yeah.
I want to be the little green.
Well, my son wore the Green Phantom mask. There are pictures out there. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Little baby Green Phantom. But, yeah, so Green Phantom was here. Johnny North was here. And I was here, and we were watching AEW All Out on Saturday. And you can check that out over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ringsidereport.net. A lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a good show, and we've got a good show for you here tonight. We got a lot of UFC to get to. UFC 242 coming up Saturday afternoon in Abu Dhabi. It is a 2 p.m. Eastern start time for Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Poirier, UFC 242. It is the UFC Lightweight Championship on the line. It's a big fight, one of the biggest fights of the year. It is Khabib's first fight since defeating the great Conor McGregor. Khabib, of course, undefeated UFC lightweight champion, coming into this fight as a pretty heavy favorite, minus 450, and we will preview that entire card in a couple of minutes here on Ringside Report. We also have a new champion in the UFC, Wei Li Jiang, or she says it, Zhang Wei Li, because you know, a lot of Asian countries, they do the last names first. That's just how they pronounce things.
Whatever.
Anyways.
Sounds good.
I kind of feel like we should be calling her Zhang Wei Li because that's what she calls herself.
So Zhang it is, man.
But everybody's calling her Wei Li Jiang. You know what I mean? Anyways,
yeah.
I'm going to call her Wei Li Jiang. That seems to be the North American
How about we call her Champ?
Champ. Good one, Freddie.
Wei Li Champ?
Oh, no, Zhang Champ.
I'll call her the first ever Chinese champion in the history of the UFC.
Congratulations.
And she did that by knocking out Jessica Andrade in about, 44 seconds?
42. Oh, no, 48 seconds.
It was 42. No, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Right on the first try, AJ.
Yeah,
Good job.
It. Always stick with your first guess.
So Zhang Wei Li or Wei Li Jiang, whatever, just call her the champ.
But
she beats Jessica Andrade with a TKO in the first round in China. And a lot of you missed it. I missed it. I woke up. I was like, oh, what? What happened?
No,
Jessica Andrade lost?
That's because I tweeted. I sent you a message.
The fight started at like 6 a.m.
Did you, Fred?
No, Fred sent the message out to our group chat first.
Because I was like,
No, because Fred's up the earliest of the three of us. Fred is the early riser.
Yeah,
Fred's
he goes
up,
fishing, so it makes sense.
He's a fisherman. He's up at like 4 a.m. Right?
But first of all, Freddie.
6.
Fred's too busy eating candy to talk.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing Twix. I'm not sure if it's the left or right side, but it's great.
Not sponsored by Snickers.
I like that. I like that Fred just comes on the show. You know, if you're watching the show, you can see Fred, but like he barely talks. He's mostly here to like eat candy, I think.
When it comes to sugar, I'm a little compulsive, man. If anything's
or sweet tarts,
I'm gonna knock some fake wood here, and hopefully it's not gonna happen, but. If anything's going to take me away, it's probably going to be sugar, man, because sugar is...
Because you're so sweet, Freddie, that's why.
It's so hard to quit.
It's all right, man. It's all cool. So back to what I was going to say.
About Zhang Wei Li?
About Zhang, because you guys, on last week's episode, and I came in and I said, oh, but you never underestimate this
girl. Are you going to say that you picked Zhang last week?
Yes, I did pick Zhang.
You didn't.
I did pick Zhang, and I said...
You didn't.
What? Did I not?
No.
Because I came out and I said, guys... She's like 19-1. You don't know. This could be like China needs a hero. You remember that comment?
You said China needs a hero, but we all agreed that we didn't expect it to be Wei Li Jiang. We thought that Jessica Andrade would probably beat her, as did most people in MMA, as did the odds makers. most assumed that Zhang Weili was outclassed, was not really at the level of a Jessica Andrade. Andrade beating Rose Namajunas, who beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You know, this is the upper echelon of the division. Zhang Weili was pretty much unknown. She beat Tisha Torres. That was her biggest win. But, you know,
and
Tisha
just
Torres
remember,
isn't Jessica Andrade. Like, this was a surprise to pretty much everybody, including yourself, AJ.
Yeah, because
you did not pick this.
Hey, I said China needs a hero. They
said
got
China
it.
But at the end of the discussion, Dave asked clearly, who do you pick? And you went, Andrade.
Did I
And
really
that was
say that?
exactly your response.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, thankfully you can go back at ringsidereport.net and watch last week's show or listen to it or however you listen to the show. But, you know, AJ, you were not going to take credit for this one.
Well, I'll take credit for one thing. China got their hero, and they needed it. And that's one thing. You know what? This was
You
a
can
great
only
thing.
take credit for China getting a hero if you were
It's
the
not
hero.
Bruce
So what
Lee,
are
yeah.
you saying? Like right now, she's bigger than what was
Jackie Chan?
What was the basketball player? The tall
Yao
guy.
Ming.
Yao
Yao
Ming.
Ming.
Yeah, she's bigger than Yao Ming now.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
now.
she's a
No
hero.
way.
She's
Come
Zhang,
No
man.
way.
Everybody's gonna call her Zhang.
We're talking about Yao, man.
Yao cows, man. Yao's been out of the game for a long time.
Pop quiz. Who did Yao play for?
He played basketball, I guess.
You don't know what team he played for?
He played for
He played in Texas.
Houston.
Houston. There you go.
The Houston.
Hey,
You don't know the
I'm-
NBA,
you know,
AJ? You don't
I
know
do.
the team
Look,
names even?
I do.
I'm surprised
I
you
do.
don't know the team names.
No, I do. It's
Okay,
just
what's
like
the Houston basketball team called? Where Yao Ming played several seasons.
Houston? I'm a baseball guy. I'd say the Astros, but I don't know. I can't remember.
You don't know.
I can't remember, man.
It's the Rockets.
That's
okay.
what I was gonna say.
AJ, this
you
isn't-
stopped me from saying it.
This isn't a basketball show. That's okay, AJ. It's a
But back
MMA show.
to reality, where I know MMA. She's definitely bigger than Yao Ming for sure. Now,
No, she's
for sure,
not.
man. She's all over. She's the first female fighter on the top of the pedestal
No, that's
in
ridiculous.
China.
You're ridiculous.
Come on, man. Did you see all the news about her all over the place?
Maybe one day she will be, but Yao Ming.
She's a champion.
Yao Ming was like an NBA superstar from China. He was like a 7-foot Chinese guy that came in and was a all-star in the NBA. That doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, but
and
you
of
know what?
course, you know, a Chinese UFC champion. This is the first time, and I'm not saying she's
It's a
not.
female
she's not
champion.
going to become a big star, but to say that after this one fight she's bigger than Yao Ming, I think is wrong.
I think a billion Chinese will disagree with you right now, Dave.
Yeah, well, why don't you
I
go
think
to
you're a
China
dog.
and find
You know,
out?
why don't you make me call China again like I did the last time?
I think right now you're being a dog with a bone. You don't want to let go of your
Hey, listen,
point.
man. Zhang has it, and you know what? She
Zhang
wanted like
has it.
Look, she definitely is
wanted
going to help
respect
the
of-
development of MMA in China.
Absolutely.
It's great for that sport in that country to have a champion.
I'm going to put the question out to our Chinese listeners and viewers, and I know that you are all out there.
Red Dragon.
I know we have a lot of listeners out in China.
They love us out there.
Is Wei Li Jiang
Currently,
a bigger star than Yao Ming today, right now? And for me personally, should I say Zhang Wei Li or Wei Li Jiang? Like, what should we be doing?
like Freddie
'Cause
says, champion.
I notice when I watch like Japanese wrestling, like we'll call a guy Tetsuya Naito, but then in Japan when they announce him, they'll say Naito Tetsuya. You know, they do the
So do the Zhang version.
Zhang Wei Li.
You
Not
know
bad.
what? Now they're gonna take Dave's voice.
How
and
did
start playing
Bruce
it.
Buffer announcer? That's the only.
Well, I think he says Wei Li Jiang.
Yeah, he did say Wei Li.
I think.
Yeah.
Most people are calling her Wei Li Jiang. Most American and I guess Canadian and European UFC people are calling her Wei Li Jiang. But when she was in the octagon, she says, "I'm Zhang Wei Li. Remember my name." So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
So Zhang it is, man.
I remember Zhang Wei Li. That's a lot easier to remember because you said it.
And back to what I was
Which
saying.
is amazing. Like, I can't believe 20-1 now as a professional fighter, undefeated in the UFC.
Who she fights next?
Zhang Wei Li lost her first ever fight and now has won 20 straight, including knocking out Jessica Andrade, who's been one of the toughest women's fighters, both in the higher weight division. She was 135 right before, and then dropping to 115. She's been very dangerous in both divisions. Beat Rose Namajunas, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Claudia Gadelha. I mean, Jessica Andrade is legit, and that's why it was so surprising to see kind of Zhang Weili come out of nowhere and knock her out and become the new UFC Women's Strawweight Champion.
Dave, she was the favorite. Andrade came out, but like Weili Zhang, I mean, she peppered her with everything from uppercuts, knees. I mean, you saw kicks coming in.
The speed was really impressive.
Her combinations. I mean, this girl was impressive. And Andrade said it herself. She gave a lot of respect out to her opponent, and she knew this girl is a step above her.
Her hand speed was something else.
Oh, absolutely.
The way that her hands were moving forward and pop, 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 pop. It was
Bruce Lee
really
speed,
incredible to see her hands moving so fast in comparison to Andrade, who was trying to, throw something back. And her hand speed in comparison was like, whoa, there's a huge difference here. There has been talk of Michelle Waterson versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. That fight being a number one contender's bout. Joanna's already talking about it. So I think that's the fight. I mean, Michelle Waterson, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think Zhang Weili became the champion, but if she really wants to be recognized as that number one, as the star strawweight in the UFC's division, she's going to have to rack up some victories now against the known fighters like a Joanna Jędrzejczyk, like Michelle Waterson, or whoever else is next up in line for her. I think, if she could fight Joanna, that would be a big fight in the division. Whenever Joanna fights for the championship, I think it's a big deal because Joanna was the longest reigning champion that division has had. She's the most well-known women's strawweight champion that the UFC's had.
Maybe,
right?
But I feel like Joanna's lost a little bit of luster in recent fights. Like she hasn't been dominant like she used to be. She lost a lot of fights in a row. Now, I agree. It makes sense that the winner of Joanna and Michelle Waterson gets the next title shot. Andrade, she didn't defend her title, and she got knocked out in the first round. So I say she needs to win another fight probably before she gets another title shot. So
right.
It makes sense. I'm down for
Joanna got knocked out in the first round and got an immediate title shot, though.
Yeah, but that's Joanna,
That's true,
right?
still.
Yeah, but, her
But Joanna
was so... She had defended the title, like, so many times.
Right. She was so dominant, whereas Andrade, this is her first title defense, and she falls short. So I agree with Fred. I don't think that Andrade will get an immediate rematch, and I think that the winner of that Joanna and Michelle Waterson fight coming up in October on the 12th is going to be that number one contender spot. Even though Joanna has lost 3 of her last 4, one of those fights was at flyweight against Valentina Shevchenko, and the 2 other losses were to Rose Namajunas for the title. So I think Joanna is still in the discussion as top contenders for the Women's Strawweight Championship, and certainly if she beats Michelle Waterson, she'll be, I think, a solid number one contender, and same goes for Michelle Waterson. She's won 3 in a row. If she beats Joanna, you got to give her a title shot. Then she's undeniable, right? I think Michelle Waterson almost makes more sense than Joanna. Even though Joanna's kind of the former champion and been the name in the division, Michelle Waterson is actually on a win streak, and if she beats Joanna, then it's like, whoa, okay, for sure give her a title shot. But I think even still, if Joanna beats Michelle, yeah, that makes sense too, because she's a big fight for any women's strawweight champion that hasn't fought Joanna yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it'd be more interesting as
it's like a welterweight champion fighting GSP.
Yeah, but wouldn't you like to see like the karate hottie versus the Kung Fu master? That's like what they're calling her right now. It would be an awesome showdown. I think that would be like the possible fight, and if it does happen, we can probably see it sometime in February.
Right. Karate hottie Michelle Waterson versus the Kung Fu master Zhang Weili. That would be fun.
It'd be awesome.
Karate versus Kung Fu, a rare style matchup that we see in the UFC, right?
Absolutely.
I think right now we got to agree that the division has a lot of names. Like we haven't even mentioned Rose, who hasn't fought in a while. I'm not even sure
That's
what's
true.
But there's a lot of good names in that division right now, so good fights to be done.
Yeah, I like the women's strawweight division. I always have. It's always been a fun division, pretty much since the start. That first season of The Ultimate Fighter that they did with it, where they had, what's her name? The Cookie Monster there. She became the first champion. Carla Esparza.
Look,
that was a fun season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then Joanna comes in and she beats her. it's been a fun division pretty much the whole way through. I like the women's strawweight division, and this Zhang Weili thing has added a new wrinkle to it. I think it's made it even more interesting. It's like, wow, not only is there a new star in the UFC, but there's a champion from China now all of a sudden. So it's cool.
Huge viewership.
And the UFC's, doing a lot of stuff in China to try and get stuff going there. They have a performance center they opened up, right?
Exactly.
A big giant gym to try
$7 million investment, Dave.
Yeah, so they're trying big time to make China the next hotbed or trying to at least raise their profile in China, and I think the Zhang Weili thing is going to do that.
The stock
time.
looks good.
Yeah.
And Dana White, it's funny that you say that, because when we were listening to Dana White back in the days when he says there will never be a women's division in the UFC, and throughout the years from Ronda Rousey all the way to Cyborg, which is obviously gone over to Bellator right now, to like Zhang Weili. I mean, there's so many dominant fighters, and they've brought in like so many viewerships, new fans to the UFC. I mean, Dana White, he might say one thing, but in the end, he knows what he's doing. That performance center in China he does, man. He put in an investment out there. He knows it's gonna work. And now with this champion,
are you really coming here telling us, oh, Dana White knows what he's doing? Dana White.
It looks like he does.
Meanwhile,
Dave.
he let Cyborg go.
But
Cyborg signed with Bellator this week.
You know what? It doesn't mean that Cyborg won't be back in the UFC at some point again.
Come on, man.
Anything's possible.
What are you talking about, Fred? Get him. What are you saying?
It's a one-fight contract, right, with Bellator?
No.
How many? That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
It
could be anything.
It's not a one-fight contract.
It's more
who's
than
gonna
a
fight
one-fight
Cyborg
contract.
In Bellator,
Who cares? It's the Cyborg show, just like I said it would be. AJ, do you remember a few weeks ago when we were sitting here doing the show and the contract was up with Cyborg and she was demanding apologies from the UFC, and I said, this is gonna end with Cyborg leaving. Cyborg's going to Bellator. She
didn't handle it well. It was like
Dana didn't give her much of a choice. I mean, Dana was pretty clear from the beginning that he's not a big fan of the Cyborg business. So if anything, I think this probably indicates that 145 on the female side might disappear. I think they'll concentrate on Amanda Nunes being the bantamweight champion. And I think that's the thing. The UFC, they brought in Cyborg because they kind of recognized that she was like an immense talent. But at the same time, this is them telling us that there's not much other talent in that division. So we don't really believe in it.
And they're not that interested in putting Amanda Nunes against her again, right? I thought the Amanda Nunes-Cyborg fight was the fight to make. I don't really know what else.
It's disappointing that
what do
they
you
don't
do with
get,
Amanda now?
But I mean, they don't respect Cyborg, so I'm not surprised that they just let it go. But yeah, as far as fans, we wanted to see a rematch. Cyborg deserves a rematch with her stature.
But it's not going to happen now. Doesn't mean it will not happen in the future. But
don't you miss the days when you were a UFC fan and when like the fans wanted something to happen, you generally got it from the UFC? Like there was a time.
I'll give you an example. Nick Diaz doesn't show up to the press conference. Dana White pulls him out. Who ended up getting the next shot to George St-Pierre? It was Nick Diaz in the end. Because people wanted to see Nick Diaz and George St-Pierre.
Yeah, he didn't want to play ball. They pulled him from the fight. They gave Condit the fight instead, right?
Exactly.
But then after George beat Condit, they're like, okay, it's going to be Nick Diaz. And they didn't say, oh, Nick doesn't want to fight. Nick's going to sit on the shelf. Nick's whatever. They made a deal, and they put Nick in that fight. They used to make things happen.
But in some ways, they still make things happen. I mean, like the shows that we're getting are pretty impressive. You know what, Dave? You can't appease everybody. There's so many fighters in the UFC. Mind you, I like to see some fighters fight more often. But like some fighters, like Donald Cerrone will be fighting again. I love Donald Cerrone, but he's
I don't
fighting
know what it is. Very soon, right?
He's a company man.
He's fighting next week in Vancouver against Justin Gaethje.
Cerrone's a company man.
Look at that calendar. We have a calendar up for all the events, AJ.
It's actually up.
You see
I'm
what's
impressed.
happening for September? Then we got UFC Mexico.
We're moving on
UFC
up here.
Denmark. UFC's doing like a world tour. They're not doing any American shows all month of September, yet they're doing shows each and every Saturday, even all the way to October. Like, look at that.
I think
this
even
this
to
weekend,
November.
Abu Dhabi, then Vancouver next Saturday, then Mexico City the following Saturday. Saturday after that, the 28th, they're in Denmark, and then October 5th, They're in Melbourne, Australia, and they were just in China. The UFC hasn't done a U.S. show. Like, they're doing shows 6 weeks in a row and not even going to the States. That's a big move. That's a big move and a big statement from the UFC saying, look how international we are. I mean, that is pretty big.
They just need to be, the only countries they need to be in next is hopefully they'll get into South Korea. They'll get into, like, the Philippines.
France.
You know, it would be awesome. France.
Sure.
Probably. Look, the NFL is going to start their season this week, so it makes sense probably for the UFC. But, yeah, 6 weeks in a row is quite surprising.
It's unusual, right?
Well, in a way, when you think about it, it's a smart move because they're really going for that international fan base, and they're bringing the fights to those countries, and they're spotlighting fighters in those countries as well. So it's a smart move by the UFC. It's not a North American game. It's an international game, and that's what it should be. If you want to be the best in the world, you know, the Super Bowl is like the best in North America. But when we say world, the UFC goes world. We have champions from all continents and whatever. It's amazing.
It's still not necessarily the best in the world, hands down, because there are champions in other promotions.
Sure.
When you are the champion in the UFC, you are just the champion of the UFC promotion. They say you're the world champion, but it's true and it isn't. But I think for the most part, it is true. I think the UFC does tend to have the best competitors in any given weight class. Sometimes there are exceptions, right? There's always exceptions. But I think that for the most part, you can call the UFC champions world champions. You know, but Bellator has some really good fighters. What do you think about Bellator saying Ryan Bader is the #1 heavyweight in the world? It is not Stipe Miocic.
Look, they can say what they want. They're a great organization. Bader is a beast. What it would be nice is maybe in the future to have like maybe some form of not a championship belt, but like in boxing,
it won't happen.
You have. It might not happen, but there's a lot of changeover, Fred. I mean, there's a lot of guys from the UFC have gone to Bellator going to UFC. The bottom line is
there'll never be a
UFC,
co-promotion like you're trying to say right now.
You know, you never know. I mean, it happened with McGregor in boxing with Mayweather.
It's not going to happen.
Anything could happen.
No, the
and
UFC
as far as Ryan Bader,
co-promote.
I want to stick to the Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader has had a nice resurgence in Bellator. I'll applaud him. Great performances. But come on, man. The guy was a decent light heavyweight in the UFC. He wasn't close to being championship material in the UFC.
Do you not think that Ryan Bader is a better fighter today than he was when he left the UFC? I think he's better now than he was before.
In some sense, yes.
Probably a little bit better, but not to a point where I'm going to think he would go to the UFC now and beat the heavyweight champion.
Do you think he could contend with Stipe? You don't think he could beat Stipe?
I'm picking Stipe.
Can he beat Cormier?
I'm picking Cormier in that fight.
Exactly.
That was a fight that, you know, Bader at one point was the #1 contender in that UFC light heavyweight division, and it didn't seem like they were going to give him the fight, so he went to Bellator. He won a couple fights in a row. He was the #1 contender, and they didn't give it to him. So
look, it doesn't.
And
mean
Bader has now won, 7, 8 fights in a row, 7 fights in a row. He's the Bellator heavyweight champion, and bringing up Ryan Bader because he is fighting on Saturday. The other fight on Saturday, not just UFC 242, but Bellator 226.
It's not a good
coming
move.
Up on Saturday. Yeah. Bader defending his title against Czech Congo,
who's
awesome. On quite a resurgence as well. Czech has won a bunch of fights in a row. He's won 8 straight coming into this title shot. So Czech Congo at 44 years of age, taking on 36-year-old champion Ryan Bader.
What time is the fight at?
I think it's at night because it's in the United States. You could watch the UFC in the afternoon, and then you could watch the Bellator card at night. It's in San Jose, California, and it's going to be on DAZN. So you have to have DAZN app to watch this thing.
Yeah.
And the rest of the card is like, whatever. Some decent fights, but nothing incredible. I think it's a Bellator featherweight Grand Prix, like opening round in a featherweight tournament. So it's like, a bunch of guys.
Congo Bader is a great fight.
Congo Bader's a solid main event.
Look,
though.
I'm gonna applaud Bader for keeping his career alive, and he had to leave the UFC. I think it was good for him to leave. If he beats Congo, it's just an extra thing. I still think Stipe is at another level, Plus, to me, Stipe, his comeback against Daniel Cormier like showed so much resilience.
Yeah. It's hard to bet against
exactly.
Stipe
I would
right
have
now.
to go with Stipe, but Bader, I'm gonna applaud everything he's done in recent fights.
Would you take Stipe in a rematch with DC?
That's a tough one. We need to see
It's
that.
tough because DC was winning that fight,
Yep.
but
Yeah,
to me,
man.
in a way, like I don't know, I just have a vision of like seeing Stipe in great shape, and he took everything Cormier had to give to him, and he was able to fight back.
True. Good
That's
point.
a fight I want to see. It's definitely a fight I want to see. Another one I want to see is Khabib Nurmagomedov and Dustin Poirier. We're going to take a short pause here on the radio side and get to UFC 242. It is Khabib time this Saturday afternoon in Abu Dhabi. A rare afternoon pay-per-view for the UFC. The lightweight championship of the world is on the line. The interim champion Dustin Poirier challenging the undefeated UFC lightweight champion, the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov. We're going to get to that fight when we come back. It is Ringside Report. Stay right here.
How does an eagle go, by the way? Is it a caca?
I think it's like a
Sounds like an ex-girlfriend of mine. But anyways, Eagle time, man. Who cares about Bellator? Did that sound bad?
What do you mean who cares
Are
about
we
Bellator?
scripted? Edit it out. Who cares, man? It's Khabib, man. It's Khabib time. It's Khabib. And you know what? I'm upset. I forgot to dress up as Khabib tonight. I'll dress up as Khabib next week if he wins.
But it's not at the same time, so you could watch both.
I know, Fred, but you know what? Like when you think of it strategically, it makes sense to some extent that Bellator is on at the same time, trying to take UFC fans.
But it's
the
not at
bottom
the same
line
time.
is,
It's not at the
it's
same time.
No, but I mean the same day, I should say. The thing
How
is
does it
that
take UFC fans if it's not even at the same time?
It's gonna be a fan. You know, there's gonna be weekend parties. There's gonna be all kinds of stuff.
Have a
People- UFC
Snickers.
Snickers.
Have a Snickers. You're
Don't get
saying
angry.
like a bunch of crazy stuff.
Joe Pesci. Listen, what it comes down to
Exactly.
is the UFC dominates, man. Khabib dominates. You can't. There's no way that you're gonna compete with these guys. No way. Snickers.
Okay.
What? Think about it.
I don't know. Fred, we got to talk about you going to see Lenny Kravitz. I
Oh, yeah,
promoted
what's up? Hey, why don't we do some like book reviews or music reviews on our show too?
it. Okay.
Like you and Johnny, Freddie, Lenny Kravitz. Was it a packed forum or whatever? Bell Center.
Well, the second deck wasn't open, but yeah, it was packed. The first deck, it was incredible.
Average age?
As I told Dave earlier, there was people younger and older than me, so I felt great.
You smoked during the show?
Nope. I
Was
smoked
there a lot of weed in the
before the
air?
show.
Were people smoking during the show? Did you smell it?
No, I didn't see anybody smoking.
Nah, it's not a fun show then.
Did anybody warm up for him?
I mean, you could have edibles, you could smoke
Mm-hmm.
before the show. I mean, if you're not able to stay like 90 minutes into the Bell Center without smoking, man, you got some issues. I'm just
What?
saying. I'm just saying, like, if you're not able to serve, like I go to these places,
But
and,
it makes it
and
more
I
fun
always,
sometimes.
and I always see people.
Of like rock and roll of Montreal back in the forum days, people were walking around with bats all over the place. People were smoking like crazy.
You think people
You
aren't
needed,
doing
like,
that
goggles so
today?
you can watch the
You're
show.
just not going to the right shows, AJ. Pretty much every show I go to is filled with weed smoke.
yeah, but that's all those like weird rap groups. That
Yeah,
you
it's a
listen
lot
to.
of rappers.
It's
A
not real
lot
rap.
of the rap shows, there's a lot of weed smoke going on, and they're smoking
Like,
everywhere.
you listen to
I don't
in
know.
the Bell Center.
I pay so much for my tickets. I could smoke my huge joint. It's huge, very huge.
Big bats.
Before I get in, and I'm good, man.
There you go.
Once I'm in, man, I eat a couple of cookies. I have a coffee.
There you go, man. It's a romantic date there.
I don't have
Fred.
coffee
love
no
it.
more, but
You guys are getting old, man. You don't want to party like you used to.
Wow, I had a hard time coming up your stairs today. So
I
it
remember
makes
when I
sense.
saw Snoop Dogg, it was like the Bell Center was hotboxed. It was crazy. That was years ago. That was like 15 years ago. That was nuts.
Well, talk about Snoop. He's a big MMA fan, big UFC supporter. So Snoop Dogg, if you want to support our show, David Simon Productions. He'll
I
send
think-
you a few bats.
I think we could hang with Snoop. What do you think,
we
Fred?
should bring him in studio, man. Wouldn't that be cool?
What do you think? You think Snoop could outsmoke you?
I don't know. I smoke my fair share. I'm not into competing
Dave,
with
why don't you
anybody.
get Snoop Dogg here, man?
Well, no,
I'll talk
because
MMA
people
with
say
him.
like, oh, you smoke with Snoop Dogg and you like fall asleep right away because he's like Smoking on big joints all the time or something. You know?
Well, that has more to do with.
I can't imagine that.
It has more to
type
do
of
with
weed.
what time it is. Like if I'm starting to smoke at 6 a.m. when I wake up, I could smoke until like easily 8 p.m. But I mean, if I'm starting at 8 p.m. when I've been up for like 14 hours, well, yeah, that's a problem.
Strategies.
Did you guys smoke with Elvis
Strategy,
Theodoro
man.
when we had him on the show? Are you allowed to say that?
No, we didn't. I would tell you if we did, but we did not.
Because he's a big supporter.
I gave him something though.
Did you give him a little gift?
All right, let's get back to the action.
Don't be admitting to a crime here.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what I gave him or what it was.
What kind of
or-
gift was it,
And let me
Dave?
just say I gave him a gift and for being on the show because when you're on our show, we treat you with respect and dignity.
And Uncle Benny's wine.
And Uncle Benny's wine. We always have nice wine for you and other parting gifts when you're a guest on Ringside Report or the Ringside Report Network.
So if you want to be a guest,
Green Phantom was on the show. He got a little gift.
did he?
Johnny North, he's like a regular co-host. You guys are co-hosts. You guys don't
no
get gifts.
Yeah, well, we kind of
Well,
do.
you get Snickers and Twix.
Twix.
You guys are eating a bunch of Snickers and Twix.
Not sponsored by Twix.
Fred,
or
how many Snickers and Twix you imagine you've had during the show so far?
Too many.
Where'd
We
you get
can't
these?
we
What is
can't
it, for
do that
Halloween?
every week.
Yeah, it's like a Halloween box I got.
Did you?
One of those like
It's pretty sad when they're already starting to come out with that.
one of these, you know? Why? Halloween's like next month.
We're gonna do our Halloween special for sure.
I got one of these for you guys because you like the candy so much
the
from
jelly
last
beans.
week. I still got the
Yes.
big bag of jelly beans for you guys. I just keep candy here
The
for you
quality of
guys
those things, man.
to enjoy while we do the show.
We
All
don't
right?
fool around here. We're like
I take
high
care of my
rollers.
people. All
High
right, we got
rollers.
MMA to get to. It's Khabib time, motherfucker.
Strippers, jelly beans. What more do you want on the Ringside Report Network?
Khabib, you're a bitch. Fight Nate Diaz.
What? Don't say that.
Well, how
Hashtag.
come he doesn't want to fight Nate Diaz?
It's not his choice, man. He wanted to fight George.
I
and they
know,
didn't give
but
him
like,
the fight with George.
him-
You're sure it's not him? Nate Diaz doesn't.
Oh yeah, that's also possible. But it's just like it's a deal. Like Khabib and Nate always get into like brawls and stuff. They're always yelling at each other. I'd like to see them fight each other.
It might happen, Dave.
That'd
it
be
might
good.
happen.
That'd be
Look,
good.
Yeah, it's a possibility in the future. I mean, if Nate defeats Jorge and Khabib wins against, well, there's still Tony, but I mean, they're all in the picture right now.
True.
Yeah, but Nate's fighting at 170.
I could see him come back down at some point.
I saw an interview with Dana White that he did. He said, "When I think about Nate, I think about big picture stuff. I don't even think about Nate Diaz."
Because you can't count on him.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, Nate fought once in 3 years. You know, he might not fight again for another 3 years.
And that's why, like when he was mentioning earlier, Cowboy, he's gonna fight in the UFC forever because the UFC could count on him. So as long as Cowboy wins once in a while, he'll be in the UFC for another like 10, 20 fights probably.
What's happening? What's happening in the universe? Dave?
Somebody's saying that Khabib is the king of MMA. He's gonna smash that cokehead Diaz. I don't think Diaz is a cokehead. I think he
He's a
just-
pothead for
he
sure.
smokes a lot of weed. You
Who
know,
was that said that?
some guy named Quejas.
Quejas. You're a badass.
But
Quejas.
Habib is the king right now.
He is the king, man.
He's gonna treat Dustin Poirier like a rag
Man,
doll.
he's gonna. Have
Let's get to it. Let's get to it. All
because
right.
I want to talk about like
All right, 3, 2, 1 here. I'm counting us down. And
3, 2, 1.
And welcome back. It is Ringside Report. I am Dave Simon. Fred Garcia is here. AJ DeLesio is here. Check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ringsidereport.net, youtube.com/ringsidereport.net, the online home for Ringside Report live every Thursday at 8 p.m. We go live on the YouTube channel. Me, Fred, AJ, we're all here. You could watch Wrestling Uncensored on the YouTube channel. You could watch the AEW All Out show that we did with Johnny North and the Green Phantom, a double dose of professional wrestlers. I had 2 giant dudes next to me watching All Out. It was a good time, and you can watch us watch AEW over at the YouTube channel. More info for that is on our official website at ringsidereport.net. More info for that. You can follow us on all the social media things. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dave Simon MMA. You can follow AJ at Danny Bruck, and you can follow Freddie at Freddie MMA. So let's get back to the MMA. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undisputed, undefeated UFC Lightweight champion. the Eagle, bringing in his UFC Lightweight Championship and a 27-0 record.
How much better does it get than that?
Beating Conor McGregor by submission in the 4th round of his last fight, which was a long time ago, almost a year. It was in October of 2018. And now Khabib stepping up here to defend that championship, I guess for the second time, because Conor was the first defense, and now Poirier coming up to be his second defense. AJ's got a Nerf gun that he's pointing at me. I don't know why.
Did you forget?
You shoot that thing, AJ. Don't forget that I have high-powered Nerf guns and I will shoot you in the face. So
I miss those days.
yeah, be careful, AJ. So Khabib hasn't fought in a while. He takes on Dustin Poirier, who fought last in April with an incredible victory over Max Holloway. One of the best fights that you will see in 2019. An awesome display of all aspects of MMA, really. Dustin Poirier showing his skills. And I think Dustin Poirier may be the more complete MMA fighter here compared to Khabib. I think if you look at what Dustin Poirier brings to the table, he's a good striker. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's a decent wrestler. He's got a lot of skills and a lot of different aspects of the game. Khabib is a vicious, scary, nightmarish wrestler. Khabib has strength, grip strength, power, technique, ability to take you down in a variety of ways and keep you down, stick to you like glue, smother you, punch you, take your will away, take your air away,
Suffocates you
until you don't want to fight anymore, until you lose the will to fight. And he has done this to some of the greatest MMA fighters in the game today. He has beaten them to the point where they don't want to fight anymore. Khabib is a walking nightmare.
Good.
He really is.
I like
he
that.
is the beast, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He is scary. You do not want to tangle with this man who wrestled literal bears at 8 years of age.
No teddy bears.
Not a teddy bear. We're talking about a cub, a baby bear in Khabib's native Dagestan. His father put little Khabib at 8 years old in there against a bear. And if you don't believe me, just Google search Khabib versus bear, and the video is easy to find. This guy was born and bred to be a fighting, killing, death machine of a wrestler. And that's what he is. But I think he's maybe more one-dimensional than Dustin Poirier, but that one dimension is so strong and so powerful that no one has been able to stop him. No one has been able to solve the takedown of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Every single one of his opponents, they fall. They cannot find the answer. No one has come close. Everyone is not only beat by Khabib, but dominated by Khabib.
Well, Yaquinta went the distance. That's the one thing.
He didn't lose a round. Khabib doesn't lose rounds. He not only wins fights, he wins every round. He wins convincingly. He is, without a doubt, the number one. And maybe the number one fighter on the planet.
Agreed.
An undefeated world champion? Who else is an undefeated world champion today in the UFC?
Zero.
And when we talk about
Usman.
Kamaru Usman, is he undefeated?
I'm pretty sure he is.
Well, there you go.
But not with a 27-0 record.
But he's not Khabib, right?
No.
And when we talk about world champions, Khabib is the world champion.
And one thing, Dave, that you were saying earlier, I mean, it's not only Khabib. I mean, he comes from Dagestan, from the village that he's from. I mean, other than Khabib, I think
Usman has one loss, Fred.
Does he?
Yeah.
Early in his career.
15-1.
Yeah. But, yeah, Khabib is a one. He's an original. Whatever happens to him in the future, this guy's a legendary. He's going to be a legendary fighter in the UFC, a legendary martial artist, legendary wrestler. But back to Dagestan, in that village where he comes from, there's like 7 apparently world champions that are coming out of there. That area that he's from, they're all top level wrestlers. I mean, the guy is a walking nightmare. And you know what? Him going to Abu Dhabi, like I said, he's going to the Muslim Brotherhood. They're gonna welcome him as a hero. And if he wins there, this guy is going to be in, like, I don't know, religious sayings. I mean, Khabib is
all right,
a beast.
settle down here. Khabib,
He's a beast.
They might rewrite a holy book. That's what you're saying right now.
For Khabib,
I think
yeah.
Khabib
he's a
may
warrior.
be one of the most visible Muslim sports figures out there, right? Khabib
for sure.
is very proud of his faith, and he talks about it quite a bit, and it's a big part of who Khabib is and part of the appeal for a lot of people for Khabib Nurmagomedov. And this fight happening in Abu Dhabi is a big deal. He may be Russian, but he's also a Muslim, and the people there are very excited to see their guy Khabib Nurmagomedov having this big fight.
And he doesn't look pressured at all. I mean, he's going in there, like, I've seen a few interviews and whatnot. I mean, Khabib he's looking forward to this fight. And, I mean, Dustin Poirier is no joke. He's had an amazing career. He's beat, like, so many legitimate guys. His fight with Holloway, like you said, was an amazing, that's a highlight fight. The most dangerous fighter, I think, for Khabib right now is Poirier. But does Poirier have what it takes to stop the Eagle? Unless the only way I can see a win by Poirier is that he gets a lucky knockout, or if Khabib decides that he's not going to wrestle and he's going to start doing, like, I don't know, Muay Thai and kickboxing, and he wants to beat Poirier by that. That's the only way that Poirier will win. It's going to be a tough one.
That's the thing. Poirier being like a featherweight before, like he's a decent size lightweight, but I feel Khabib is going to be able to win the body-to-body battle, the
50, Dustin Poirier plus 360, the underdog. But there's something about this fight, man. There's something, last week was so weird with that fight in China and Andrade losing, and we didn't expect it. And,
this is MMA, man.
This is MMA, and there's something about MMA recently where it seems like the more complete fighters tend to win. And I know that sounds really simplistic, and it's kind of like, yeah, obviously, Dave, the more complete fighter wins. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you could be a specialist with one skill, like Khabib is, and use that skill till the end and just dominate. But the trend in MMA, I feel, is for somebody to be beyond a specialist, somebody to be well-rounded, and that's how you are winning these fights more often than not. And I feel like Dustin Poirier is a more well-rounded fighter than Khabib.
Are you trying to say something like Ben Askren?
I think he's a better striker. Well, Ben Askren is one example. He's a specialist. He got knocked out very quickly. Very shocking knockout. He did come in as a favorite in that fight, right?
But
I wouldn't be surprised if Khabib got knocked out. Like, I feel like it's possible. Khabib hasn't fought in a year. He's fighting in Abu Dhabi. It's a different kind of atmosphere. It's a different kind of pressure. His dad is going to be in his corner, and Khabib has said this is the first time his dad has ever been in his corner for a pro fight in the UFC.
Who has the better cardio? Because remember the last card in Abu Dhabi, which was many years ago, but Anderson Silva and Damian Maia, that fight slowed down as it went because it was pretty hot out there. A lot of the breathing was hard, the cardio was hard, and same thing for the co-main event, which was BJ and Frankie Edgar. BJ Penn had a hard time in Abu Dhabi, so
the heat could play a factor, and if it does, I think I'd give the advantage to Khabib. I mean, the fight that it's gonna be, if Khabib gets on top of you and starts, really wearing you out, plus it's really hot, I mean, you're gonna be done. Like, it won't go the distance because Poirier will tap out. Poirier will give up the fight. I think if Khabib does his Khabib thing early, it'll be over. But if Poirier can defend the takedown, that's always the thing with Khabib. And that's kind of what I said with the Conor McGregor fight. Well, if Conor can defend a takedown, Khabib's going to be in a lot of trouble. The difference between Conor and Dustin Poirier is that Dustin Poirier has better ability to defend the takedown. Dustin Poirier, I think, is a more well-rounded fighter than Conor McGregor.
Well, he has a much better...
I think Poirier, Poirier is not... He doesn't have the striking ability or the knockout power that Conor McGregor has. He doesn't have the wrestling ability that Khabib Nurmagomedov has. But he's more well-rounded.
I think
completely.
he's more athletic also. We're
Maybe.
talking about cardio and all that. Maybe like that's where his strength is, where Dustin Poirier could also go 5 rounds.
Look, Poirier right now has like a 69% stuffing of takedowns. So that's pretty high. Can he do it to a Khabib? We'll see. I mean, if Khabib plays his game, takes the top mount like he wants to, he doesn't want to go to 5 rounds. He doesn't want to go to decision. He wants to make a statement in Abu Dhabi. And he wants to win this, either by KO or TKO, which I think is going to be more likely. If Khabib plays his game, Poirier is gone. He'll stuff the takedown maybe a few times, but the thing is that as a wrestler, Khabib, he'll wear and tear you down. You might be strong in the first, second round, but Khabib just gets stronger and stronger as the rounds go on. That's the strength of the cardio of a wrestler, as opposed to times when I say like to a boxer. A wrestler never has time to use the ropes or to use the cage or whatever. When you're wrestling, it's always at anaerobic levels. You're just going at 1,000. And that's the problem. And Poirier is he's great in jiu-jitsu.
Khabib is on top of you. Like, his top game is so strong.
It's a nightmare.
And I think Poirier is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
He is.
But,
I mean,
you know, he's not known for a tremendous guard. He's not known for his great ground game, right? He's got
bad.
the ability to get back up to his feet, but he's not known for, you know, pulling off like freaky submissions. Like Tony Ferguson is more known for his nice Darce chokes that he does. Like Ferguson is nastier off his back than Dustin Poirier, right?
Absolutely.
He's more of a threat. I think the Ferguson fight is the fight. I think Khabib is going to win this fight. I think he's going to Khabib style it. I think he might even finish Poirier, you know, with a TKO or a submission. I think he might wear him out, and by the 3rd or 4th round, maybe even the 5th. But I don't think it goes the distance. I think it ends with a Khabib Nurmagomedov finish victory, and then we're on for Khabib and Tony Ferguson, and that's the fight. Like, that is the fight where, I don't know if I'm going to pick Khabib here. I think I might have to go with Tony Ferguson, because that's really the big, big fight. This one, though, man, I think Khabib is going to win, but I would not bet on Khabib to win, especially since he's such a huge favorite. But not only that, like, I feel like Dustin Poirier has the skills to beat Khabib. It just depends on whether he has the strength and the intangibles. You know, the certain things that you can't quite tell until they're in there. That's what's going to make this fight. And I think the strength is going to play a big factor. I think Khabib is much stronger than Dustin Poirier. And once he gets his hands on him, I think it's going to be a wrap. You know, once Khabib grabs wrist control, grabs a hold of Dustin Poirier, you know, grabs a hold of a leg or his waist or something, I think then you're going to see, it's a different level here. And you're going to see in Poirier's face, like, uh-oh. Yeah. I'm in deep waters. I'm in Khabib world, and that's when Khabib's going to take over.
I mean, if he's able to stuff those takedowns and really get back to the center of the octagon, that's where Poirier is going to want to be. You want to stay away from the octagon cage. For sure, Khabib is going to drive him. Khabib needs to get away from the middle, drive him to the octagon. If Poirier can actually turn this into a stand-up, that's when that lucky punch could come. And that's really the way Poirier could win.
A punch, a knee, an elbow.
But it won't be if it stays stand up, it won't be a lucky punch. I think Poirier could stand up with Khabib. If Poirier could like stuff the takedown, I believe in Poirier standing up's chances against Khabib.
And that's the thing. If Khabib cannot take Poirier down, he's done. Yeah. Like, he's got nothing. He's screwed. And that's what I'm talking about. Well, being well-rounded. If you come in with one weapon, and that weapon's really strong, but somehow it malfunctions, the other guy with all different weapons, like say you come into a fight with a bazooka, and the other guy's got a couple of knives and maybe a nunchuck or something, right? Well, the guy with the bazooka most times is going to win, but if he shoots the bazooka and the bazooka malfunctions and the guy's able to dodge the rocket or whatever, well, then the guy with the little knives is going to beat the bazooka. And that's kind of what this fight is. Khabib has the bazooka. Poirier's got a couple nunchucks. If he can dodge that bazooka rocket, well, Khabib's going to be in trouble because he's going to get nunchucks all in his face. It's going to be Ninja Turtle City.
Ooh, that's very deep. Very wise, Dave. Very, very wise.
Michelangelo all in your face.
It's like Sun Tzu. I love it.
Party time.
No, good point. You got a good point. And the thing, we saw that with Ben Askren, and that's what happened. He made a mental mistake. He went to a wrestling technique at the center of the octagon that knocked him out. So I don't think Khabib
was it a mental mistake, or was it like
it was a mental
Jorge
mistake.
Masvidal going it for like a wild card, like going like
look, he went kamikaze.
Yeah, he
sure.
went all in like with, I don't know, a jack, you know.
I think for a knockout like that, it's a combination of things. I think maybe Askren made a little bit of a miscalculation. Maybe Masvidal made the perfect move at the right time. Maybe there was a little bit of luck involved. And I think it's all of those things combined that contributed to that knockout. When things like that happen, when a guy gets knocked out in 7 seconds with a flying knee as the only strike and only thing that happens in a fight, I think there are a lot of factors at play there, a lot of weirdo things that are happening.
No, and you're absolutely
I don't
right.
think it's going to happen with Khabib, but it could, you know, and that's the beauty of MMA. You never really know.
Anything could happen. I remember Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas, right? No one thought that Tyson would go down to Buster Douglas. Anything can happen in this world. It's a sport. You make one mental mistake, it's a chess game. It's human chess.
But I would tell you in MMA it happens more than in boxing.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like that example from boxing was like the extreme upset. Whereas in MMA, we've seen Ronda lose to Holly Holm all of a sudden. Nobody expected it. Like we've seen people.
We
seen
saw Zhang
champions.
Wei Li.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen champions that we didn't expect ended up losing. Joanna, the first time she lost to Rose, everybody was pretty much surprised.
That was a shocker.
GSP to Sarah, I think, was a big shocker. As
sure.
well. Things happen.
Hey, Michael Bisping when he beat Luke Rockhold.
That was a shocker for me.
That was a big shocker.
Shocker for AJ.
Chris Weidman when he beat Anderson Silva. That was a big shocker, right? When he knocked him out. That was nuts. Things happen in this game. You never know what might happen. Champions that are on top forever sometimes go down. It happens. But we all think Khabib will win tomorrow, or I guess Saturday afternoon. Then we got Edson Barboza in the co-main event taking on Paul Felder. This is an interesting fight at 155 pounds.
Repeat.
You know, what do you guys think? This is really the only other
Two bangers, you know, it's two guys that like to throw.
Yeah, they throw a lot of spin
They
kicks
fought
and
before
stuff.
again. You know, I mean, it's like
Right.
They fought before. Who won?
Barboza.
No.
Yeah.
Barboza won by
Yeah.
decision
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Barboza again. I'm a fan of Edson Barboza. I know he's always like, it seems like he's always close to being like in top 5, top 7 guys, but he can't crack it. But he's just a fun guy to watch fight, and he's a great striker. So I expect against Felder, if you ask me, I expect it to stay standing up, and I'm gonna go with Barboza.
Barboza has lost 3 of his last 4, while Felder has won, I think, 3 of his last 4. So Barboza has struggled. Felder is coming off a win. Barboza's coming off a knockout loss.
Yeah,
He was
well,
knocked
look
out.
at
but
who
his 3
he's
losses,
fighting. Yeah,
Khabib,
Justin
Kevin
Gaethje.
Lee, Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
I mean, these are
He's fighting top-notch guys.
respectful losses in a sense. But Paul Felder, I mean,
Paul
I don't know
Felder's
if he'll
like,
ever be a champ.
he does a lot of commentary. He's the underdog, plus 135. Barboza minus 155, the favorite. I would lean towards Barboza too, but
It could go
I don't
either
know.
way here.
It could
you know?
go either way.
It
yeah.
could go. He's got
Any other fights?
Just one last thing I'm going to say is I think it's a perfect fight to put just before Khabib. You know, it's the type of fight that should bring a lot of action, standing up.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of action out of that fight.
Yeah, it'll
Guaranteed.
be fun.
The rest of this card is a little bit like shady. There's a little bit of
It's
lack
alright.
of star power.
It's gonna be really a wrestling card. Most of it is gonna be all wrestlers except for this one.
Couple fights I do want to see. How about this? Curtis Blades against Shamil Abdurakhimov. That's a fun fight at
Yeah, that'll
heavyweight.
be a
That's
good
a good
stand-up
one.
fight.
I always like Joanne Calderwood. She's taking on Andrea Lee. That's a good
That's
fight
gonna
on
be
the
a good one.
prelims.
Yep.
And I want to give a shout out to Montrealer Nordin Taleb. Nordin is going to be fighting Muslim Salikov on the prelims of this one. So Nordin, he's out there in Abu Dhabi. Shout out to Nordin. He's been on the show before. I like Nordin Taleb. Good guy, good Montrealer.
Coming out of TriStar.
And, he's on this card against Muslim Salikov.
And he did a good fight. His last fight,
Nordin's fights are
really-
all fun,
You
man.
know, in the beginning, he always you would never know which way it's gonna go because Nordin is a beast. But I'm glad he's still in the fight game and he's doing well and hopefully he wins this one.
Minus 120, the favorite is Nordin, just a slight favorite over Salikov. So that one taking place Saturday afternoon, and I guess some of these prelims, the early ones on Fight Pass on Saturday morning, because the main card starts at 2 p.m.
So 11 o'clock, it should be.
Yeah, about 10, 11 a.m. for the Fight Pass prelim, so wake up early for those on Saturday. Elsewhere in the world of UFC, guys, we got to get to the BJ Penn news. We talked a lot about BJ Penn last week, and BJ said, he did an interview, and he said, I'm having a custody battle, and all these videos are really bad for the custody battle, and he explained his side of the fight, like the guy was not happy with him, and he's not sure why, and he tried to hug him, and then the guy punched him, and he said, "Wait, why are you punching me?" And he tried to hug him again, and then he punched him, and that's when you saw the video where BJ gets punched and knocked down, and then later on, the guy's like continuing to punch him, so BJ had to defend himself, he's saying, and he's saying that all this is really bad for his custody dispute that he's having with his estranged wife or ex-wife or whatever's going on there in BJ Penn world. Meanwhile, BJ Penn was supposed to fight Nick Lentz in the UFC at some point this year, but Dana White did an interview with ESPN and says BJ Penn is done. He's not going to be fighting again. Dana says, this wasn't the last straw at all. This had nothing to do with the videos, but after I saw the videos, it's definitely over for BJ Penn. So it's like, what is going on here, Dana? Yeah. No matter what, BJ Penn shouldn't be fighting anymore. He hasn't won a fight.
But he will fight again, I predict.
I don't think so. Not in the UFC.
Oh, yeah, he'll be back.
Look, it's not.
I think
it's not his fault when you think about it. When you hear the interview and you see the video, what do you want the guy to do? I'm sure alcohol was involved. There was apparently at some concert. It's not good for his custody battle. I'm sure he doesn't want to lose his child over these stupidities. But when you're in the public eye, you're always gonna have these yahoos coming to bother you.
You gotta walk away.
He did walk away. He said it. He tried to be friendly and whatnot. He tried to walk away. The other guy just wants his 2 minutes of fame.
He tried to hug him.
Listen, man, you know how it is. Crescent Street is full of huggers after 3 a.m.
Look, BJ Penn should not be fighting in the UFC. Nothing to do with these videos or his drunken escapades or whatever he's doing outside of the cage. It has to do with his performance inside the cage. He hasn't won a fight since the year 2010 when he beat Matt Hughes.
Yeah, it's been a hard like
he
decade.
has
and
lost.
Before that, when is his utter win before that? Matt Hughes is in 2010.
He's lost 7 fights in the past 9 years. Matt Hughes was in 2010. The win before that was over Diego Sanchez in 2009.
Long time ago.
And that was really his last legit victory. So the last time BJ Penn had a real win against a real fighter that was a competitive fight was in 2009. So it's really 10 years. BJ Penn shouldn't be fighting anymore when the great BJ Penn has lost 7 in a row and the opponents just keep getting worse and worse and he can't do it. Like, okay, it's time to call it quits. I don't need to see him fight Nick Lentz. It's unnecessary.
Look, you know what? I was with you with the whole fact of maybe BJ should have taken his retirement, but
he
needs to redeem himself.
He's got a 16-14 record. It should be 16-6. That should have been his pro record. But instead, when people look at his career, it's like, oh, he was good for a while, and then, he was terrible.
Yeah.
You're not going to look at BJ Penn as that great fighter.
Yeah, I agree with Fred. I think he needs that one last fight.
In the UFC
I think
again.
he only had one fight left on his contract. This was it. I think Dana White, if he's listening, let BJ fight. Hopefully he can win this fight.
Not going to happen.
And he'll be redeemed. I mean, you know what? It's just not fair for what happened. I don't think it's entirely BJ's fault from what I saw and what I heard. I wasn't there to back it up, but there's enough to say that
you don't know exactly what happened.
You don't know what happened. Last week you had all these conspiracy theories about BJ Penn. You're always defending these guys when they get into all this drunken trouble. Makes me wonder what kind of trouble you're getting into when you're impersonating me in bars and different things,
and Johnny
always putting me into the strip club. I think you're envisioning yourself.
Yeah, you're always talking about strip clubs and doing all sorts of stuff and defending people. When McGregor had that thing where he punched the guy in the pub, you said it wasn't McGregor, and then McGregor admitted it was him. Now you're making excuses for BJ Penn. AJ, you think Michael Jackson's completely innocent. You're down with R. Kelly. I think it's done.
I mean, so does Dave Chappelle, by the way. But Dave Chappelle does think R. Kelly's guilty.
Yeah, but AJ doesn't. AJ doesn't know who R. Kelly is.
No, I do know. How can I not know? You say it so many times, but I didn't know who he was in the beginning.
Could you name an R. Kelly song for us?
Some crazy song that you made me listen to.
Yeah, how about one? How about naming one R. Kelly song? Fred, do you think you could name an R. Kelly song?
Oh, come on, just sing it, man. Come on. Believe you could. Come on, you believe you could. Come on. I believe
I can fly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, there you go. That's an R. Kelly song.
I can believe. No, I don't want to sing.
Come
R.
on,
Kelly.
Freddie, sing it.
No, we're not singing R. Kelly music on this show.
Yeah.
How
Fred,
about Def Leppard, man? Pour some sugar on me.
I
Freddie,
think
let's go.
Lenny Kravitz is still okay. I don't think.
Lenny Kravitz was good, man.
You went to see Lenny Kravitz. How was that, Fred?
It was incredible, man. He did like a medley, you called it, like where he mixed like American Woman with Get Up, Stand Up of Bob Marley. It was it was incredible.
That must have been awesome.
So much energy.
See,
great
that's real
guitarist.
music, Dave, not the stuff that you listen to.
Things
Your
that you
music
could
is
listen with your kids. You're gonna listen to that Travis Scott with your kid.
The country
guy. You're gonna
that?
teach your kid to say a lot of bad words.
No.
Listen to AJ and Fred.
I'll tell you what I listen
Kravitz.
to. I'll tell you what I listen
Def
to with my
Leppard.
son. We listen to Waylon Jennings. We listen to George Jones.
Who?
We listen to Roger Miller, and we listen to Tom Petty. Those are
Tom Petty.
Those are our
good.
4 favorite musical artists.
Good stuff.
You see,
How about Neil Diamond?
I was supposed to go see Tom Petty in Ottawa, and my girlfriend was pregnant, and we like canceled.
Man,
Tom Petty.
And he ended up dying. Not long after. I
got into Tom Petty post-death, and I'm really disappointed.
I love me some Tom Petty.
I didn't really get into Tom Petty while he was still alive, and now I love Tom Petty, and I wish I would have seen him.
Yeah.
Too bad. Rest in peace, Tom Petty. We love your music. And he was the voice of Lucky on King of the Hill, one of my favorite characters on one of my favorite shows ever.
Wow.
So
what do you know?
big love for Tom Petty. But Fred, the Lenny Kravitz concert was fun. I just love that the concerts show up and you go to see Lenny Kravitz.
I tell you, I subscribe to the Evenko newsletter. Whenever I see a good show, I buy it. Like I was telling you, and you were laughing at me. I want to go see John Bon Jovi next time he comes. I've never seen John Bon Jovi.
AJ, you're a good Italian boy. Have you ever seen Bon Jovi?
I haven't seen Bon Jovi. I've seen everybody but Bon Jovi.
So,
but if you get the tickets,
we're going, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Bon Jovi.
We're bringing Dave.
He's awesome.
Well,
wait,
I shouldn't laugh at you guys because we're actually going to have to move the recording of the show one day so that I can go see a concert later this month.
What is it?
Well, R. Kelly sings with that person that I believe. Well, doesn't she sing? Yeah, she has a song with R. Kelly.
Oh, the greatest Canadian singer of all time.
Celine Dion?
Yeah.
You're joking me.
I got 2
You're going
tickets.
to Celine Dion?
I got 2 tickets.
What do you know?
Celine's doing a bunch of shows here at the end of the month, and I've got tickets. I'm going to see Celine this month. So how about that? I just found out
she has a clothing line and everything.
She's got everything. She's the queen of Quebec.
And a lot of Americans thought she was American, but she's not. She's from Quebec, Poutineville, here, Quebec.
Yeah.
Celine.
Remember when her family used to run? Remember the Nichols restaurant?
Oh, Nichols. It was good.
Remember Nichols?
Yeah, it was.
What happened to Nichols?
Hey, it went down.
I know they got accused of
what?
Of tax fraud at some point.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Celine?
Their smoked meat was good, and it was like a nickel.
Wow.
For the second one.
Oh yeah, you could get one smoked meat sandwich for like $13, but the second one was a nickel. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Oh, wait. One last thing. Shout out to Kevin Hart because Kevin, I have some.
Oh, yeah.
I lost my tooth because of Kevin Hart, so hopefully Kevin Hart's going to do a lot better.
Hopefully he's all right. He got into a really bad car crash this week.
Remember I told you I saw him?
Yeah, I love Kevin Hart. I want him to play me in the movie of your life, right? The movie that Harvey producing, the AJ story.
The AJ.
Kevin Hart is going to play me in that movie.
And Fred?
I don't know who's going to play Fred. Maybe... I think Danny McBride.
That would be funny.
Danny McBride.
I'm not
Fred.
sure who's Danny McBride.
Kenny Powers.
Oh yeah,
So
I love
funny.
that.
He'd be
But
a
I mean,
good
if
Fred.
you're getting Kevin Hart, I should get
AJ's playing AJ.
Why aren't we changing my color also? I want Chris.
It has nothing to do with race. It's just about the essence of me.
Yeah, it's true. You got a good point there, Dave. You got a good point. And Johnny North will be played by Johnny North again.
And Joe Pesci will play you, obviously.
No, I want to play AJ.
We'll get Terry Crews for Johnny North.
Me and
Terry
Harvey
Crews?
Keitel. He called me AJ. I'm going with the AJ.
We're going to get Drew McIntyre to play Johnny North. All right, WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, a Scottish version. All right, guys. Finally, we got some UFC troubles, apparently.
Really?
ESPN reporting that Kobe Covington, Kamaru Usman. It was a fight that the UFC was trying to make for the welterweight title on November 2nd, and they're having trouble putting that fight together. And they're looking at possibly, this is a long shot, but there's a rumor that Nate Diaz and Masvidal could actually fight on that card, despite the fact that Dana White said this week, like, he's not really thinking about Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz doesn't figure in his plans. Nate Diaz fought 3 years ago, and we might not, or last fought, you know, it was his first fight in 3 years, and he might not fight again for another 3 years.
Doesn't make sense. He looks
Dana
so
really
good.
not that willing or excited to bring Nate Diaz back into the UFC, despite the fact that he's one of the most exciting fighters in the game, one of the best fighters in the game, and one of the most loved guys by all the fans. And that's just, you know, kind of par for the course these days in the post-Zuffa UFC. Dana White not giving the fans what they want. The fans want the Diaz brothers. It seems quite obvious. Everybody was excited by Nate Diaz's return. Dana White doesn't seem that pressed to bring him back into the cage,
Well, the
which
ratings,
is disappointing.
The ratings can prove otherwise. I mean,
regardless, like they
yeah.
got their ESPN money. It doesn't really matter who
Well,
they put on
that's-
TV.
no, you're absolutely right.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You're absolutely right. But the
It's
truth of the matter
unfortunate,
is
but
that
it's the way it is.
unfortunately you're right. But Diaz is Diaz, and his stock is up there. He fought so well. I want to see him. Freddie wants to see him. Dave wants to see him. AJ wants to see him for
Referring to
sure.
yourself in the third person again.
But
eh?
what it comes down to, the world wants to see him.
And
and we want to see him now, not in 3 years.
And you know what? You know what? Not only do I want to see Nate, I want to see Nick too.
Yep.
Bring me Nick Diaz.
Word up.
All right. That's the show. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube, youtube.com/ringsidereport.net. Like the video, leave a comment, click the bell when you subscribe so you get the notifications every time we're on, every time there's a new episode of Dave and Johnny Live.
Like a bone
Every
to a dog.
Friday afternoon at about 12:30, Johnny North and I go live on YouTube. We talk about AEW, we talk about Ring of Honor, we talk about movies, TV, whatever else is on our minds, the
Talk
mind
about
of
us.
Johnny North. We talk about AJ. It's kind of
Freddie.
we call it the home room of the Ringside Report Network. It's kind
pretty
of
cool, actually.
It's like the home base where we
Yeah.
kind of discuss
It's
the,
like comfort food.
it's like the news and the goings on of, you know, Ringside Report and Wrestling Uncensored and what's Phantom in
Yeah.
Japan. Dave and Johnny Live is kind of the central hub, and that goes down
It's
live.
perfect time too, actually.
Every
When you're bored
Friday,
at work,
you have
when
a
you're
little-
bored at work,
you have
and
a lunch break
You have a lunch
Fridays.
break. You need a bit of laugh because you're like down and you need like your spirits lifted. You listen to Dave Simon and Johnny North. They're funny, man. What do you think I do?
AJ's always watching the show every Friday about 12:30 on the YouTube channel. You could also watch this show on the YouTube channel. Go there right now if you're not there at
Watch
this
it.
moment, you know?
Yeah.
And Wrestling Uncensored you can also watch on the YouTube channel. It drops every Saturday for you. And
Shout out to the guys that are listening to us right now.
that's right. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. RingsideReport.net is the website. Go follow AJ on Twitter and Instagram at Danny Bruck. Follow me at Dave Simon MMA. And follow Freddie, the main man, who's had a lot of chocolate tonight. Somebody's staying up late. He's on a
No, I'm
sugar
about
rush.
to crush.
Oh, he's going to sugar crash right now. Follow Freddie at Freddie MMA. He's about to take a nap on AJ. So for Freddie and AJ, what?
I was gonna say usually it's Ben that usually takes a nap on the show.
That's
but-
right. Not now. I'm Dave, and this has been Ringside Report.